Good morning, everyone. We are the Home Energy Saver team. My name is John Holgate. These are my colleagues Mark Haberman, Gaurav Chawla, and Len Konopinski. These next few presentations are going to deal with energy usage in the home. And as we get going, I want to point out that this presentation may be a little bit different than some of the others you've seen this morning and that you'll see later on this afternoon. The Home Energy Saver is a tool that's already available online. Those of you on your laptops, if you Google Home Energy Saver, you can check it out as we present. Just see the product in action. And this morning we want to give you a brief overview of the Home Energy Saver tool, provide an analysis of the market and some competitors, assess some strengths and weaknesses of the Home Energy Saver, particularly looking at some of the feedback we've received from some of the current consumers who are using a free beta license, and then provide some next steps and recommendations for LB&L in their development of this product. So first off, why are we looking at this problem? Homes account for about 1/5 of all energy consumption in the U.S., and according to the National Academy of Sciences, there is tremendous opportunity for energy savings in the way we utilize electricity in our homes and commercial buildings. We believe there's a large unmet need for the information about how we use energy, and more importantly, how we can reduce our usage of energy in our homes. And that's where the Home Energy Saver comes into play. As I said, this is a tool that's already in use, and it is an API interface, so an application programming interface that allows commercial consumers to interact with a database and algorithm developed by LB&L based on years of research about energy usage in the home. So the API user submits information to the Home Energy Saver, and the Home Energy Saver returns an assessment of energy usage in the home in dollar figures for the year, broken out by things like heating and cooling, lighting, consumer electronics, appliances, and so on. So it provides a level of granularity that really helps you dig into how you're using your electricity at the home. Now, there's a number of inputs you can provide to the Home Energy Saver to come up with this assessment, and this flexibility is actually one of the big strengths of the product. The minimum level is just inputting a zip code, the date of construction of your house, and how many people live there, and it'll come up with a pretty accurate assessment just with that information about how much energy you're going to use. But there's up to 300 variables you can input. If you really want to drill down, you can diagram out the size of each of the rooms in your house, how big and where the windows are placed, orientation of your house to the sun, all of which will give you a more accurate assessment of your energy usage in the home. So after you receive an assessment of your energy usage, the Home Energy Saver then provides information on potential upgrades that you can make to your home to reduce your energy usage. So these recommendations are accompanied by information on return on investment and payback period. And as I was discussing earlier, we believe that meets a need to really understand what are ways you can improve energy usage in the home and what are some of the trade-offs you face in implementing those changes. Now, this tool has been around for over a decade and has garnered significant praise. A couple years ago, it was named one of the top 100 inventions of the year by R&D 100. It has also been named one of the top 100 inventions in the 23-year lifetime of the DOE. Critics particularly praise it for its accuracy, again, based on the research that LB&L has been doing for decades, the granularity of both the inputs and outputs. So as I was describing, you can really drill deep and put in a lot of information about the home, and the ability to learn about your energy consumption based on heating and cooling and lights is something that is very attractive to users. And it can provide a lot of value to consumers or commercial consumers who might be, for instance, performing energy audits. HES, though, is not the only player in this market.
Thanks, John. So we want to now kind of take a look at the market as it currently exists. And there are already players in this market, and we've kind of divvied these players up into the competitors to Home Energy Saver and the potential partners that we could see with Home Energy Saver. Now, in the competition, there were basically two main areas that we focused in. The home energy assessors, which would be other assessors similar to the Home Energy Saver product, and the home energy rating systems, of which there are a few. And in getting into some of the rating systems, we're also noting that there is kind of a complementarity to the current product with something that's coming online in conjunction with LBNL working with the DOE on something called a home energy score. And that utilizes the kernel of the home energy saver. And for this, we think that there is kind of a partnership in the home energy saver with the home energy score, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. But talking first about the home energy assessors, we have some kind of major players in the space that people are familiar with. Some of these partner with utilities such as O-Power. Some of them rely on getting data directly from customers. The Microsoft Home product, in fact, is based on LBNL's home energy saver and utilized an earlier iteration of the data from LBNL. And then you have companies like Recurve, which work currently with software for home energy auditors and roll that out. In the energy rating system space, of course, many people are familiar with Energy Star. Also, LEED, HERS is a metric that's used, HERS 2 here in California, and there are others like Green Globes that are out there. And these potentially are competitors that might be concerned with the entrance of a home energy score and further proliferation of something like home energy saver in particular. On the potential partners, there is an obvious partner in the players in the home space that many people are familiar with. Of course, there are utilities like the utilities that are further along in smart grid, especially Trilliant, a notable one. Also, appliance manufacturers, especially as appliances become smarter and integrate information from the smart grid. Whirlpool, GE, we all kind of know those appliance manufacturers. And then the coming of home area networks, so Hans, Motorola's 4Home product being one of those. And of course, the energy auditors we already talked about, those small mom and pop shops that are potentially interested in integrating some software, but don't have the large capacity and capability to build out a software entirely on their own without the research and the backbone of something like LBNL's home energy saver. And lastly, given the nature of marketing in this space and the interest in energy efficiency as a means to market the home, we think that a large play can be made in the online real estate services, especially with integration with things like a home energy score. We see an advertising potential for the residential homeowner in knowing more about the energy efficiency of their home. And so in partnering with companies such as Zillow and Trulia, we could see a space emerging where energy efficiency is advertised, much the way Zillow has already partnered with companies like WalkScore to advertise the walkability and the urban density kind of area of a home on their website.
Great. As Mark was just explaining, there's a number of markets in which home energy saver could be a major player and drive revenue. One of the big ones, obviously, is the home energy audits, which is a growing industry, and home energy saver provides value by giving auditors a chance to screen homes before they arrive on site and provide quick estimates. We believe that could be a market that really brings in a lot of revenue for LBNL. The home retrofit market is also large and growing quickly, and LBNL the home energy saver can again drive revenues by providing lead generation and very targeted ideas on ways to upgrade and improve energy usage in the home, which can expand the entire market. As Mark was describing, there's also the use of energy scores in conjunction with energy saving. And while there may not be value in that in itself, there's value in that score in conjunction with the real estate market, as Mark described, and also utilities. So we believe that there's a number of different ways this product could go, and there's a lot of potential for LBNL in a number of different revenue streams.
During our research, we dig deep into the product to understand the characteristics of this product, to come up with the key strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that lie in front of this product called HES. The strengths being clearly the brand, LBNL brand, known for its research and non-profit nature. Not just the brand, but the product is known in the market for its non-profit aim. That gives it a lot of credibility in the market, which goes in favor of this product. Clubbed it with the connections with the DOE and the government can play a good deal when it comes to really focusing on kind of working on the regulations to really increase the adoption of this product. In terms of the weaknesses, like any other entity in the world, this has its weaknesses and areas where we think we can work on. And the areas that we think HES can work on includes the need to have a dedicated marketing and sales team. This product lies in an industry where acceptance and the level of acceptance is everything. So the idea for LBNL to really focus either internally or with external partners on marketing and sales will do a great deal of good for this product in terms of increasing its adoption in the market. In terms of the output, we have got this feedback from all the players and the current beta licensees that the output seems to be a lot standardized right now. The kind of players who are using this product vary from different kinds of fields. They are retrofitters, they are real estate companies, and each of them is looking for a customized output. And the visualization is just a fancy word for saying graphs, charts, tables, etc. This is what they're looking for, and they want LBNL to focus on providing them customized output. In terms of pricing, as Mark referred earlier, the kind of customers that HES has right now are really mom and pop stores, which are very small companies, which cannot afford a really upfront fixed cost. They're looking for a structure which is variable and reduces their upfront cost. One of the recommendations that we have going forward in our presentation. In terms of the opportunities, we identify that home energy score concept, as it takes ground, this product will really take more acceptance within the audience, because most of the players that we have spoken to, they say that home energy score system clubbed with the home energy saver system really enjoy great synergies along with each other. The residential energy management system, as the homes become smarter, more smarter appliances come into the houses, these appliances would in turn require interface which SGS is offering. So as the homes become smarter, HES will gain ground within the homes. The consumer awareness, of course, the fact being that as consumers become more aware of how to save energy, HES will gain more ground within the homes. The threats being the market is maturing fast. More companies are coming into this market, and the existing players are growing in size. So for LBNL to really leverage on its advantage of being the first player in this market, it has to move fast before the market really matures and becomes way ahead of what LBNL is right now. In terms of all this SWOT analysis, this was gathered through the feedback that we got from beta licensees and market players. So thanks to them, most of them who are not here right now. The feedback that we have got from them is what we have covered in our SWOT analysis, namely being in terms of pricing. Companies saying that we want much more variable pricing. We have captured most of the quotations of what the players said, one of them being license payments should not be one time but periodic or use-based. Upfront fees can be very demanding for us. The beta period, as John referred to earlier, this product has lots and lots of inputs, over 300 inputs when it comes to coding the product. These companies have to first design a backend code to interface with, which takes tens of hours. On top of it, they take tens of hours when it comes to testing the product. Most of the beta licenses have come up with this feedback that the beta period has to be lengthened so that they can actually test the product before they actually buy the product. In terms of the licensing period, there has been no significant feedback or criticism for the upfront licensing process. But the players who had to undergo the relicensing process, they feel that process can be much more streamlined. The other points of feedback, the first three feedbacks were the feedbacks of the beta licensees. The lower three feedbacks are the feedbacks of the market players. And they being create a full service output, something that I alluded to earlier, which is that we want a much more customized visualization, which is much more customized to our needs. Customer participation. One of the concerns that the market players have raised is that there exist similar products in the market which are not as demanding when it comes to so many inputs that HES has. So is it really worth the level of accuracy that HES provides, the kind of effort that they have to put in to really interface their product with that of HES? So the question is, do we want such high level of accuracy, or can we do with lesser level of accuracy? The final being the home energy score system, which I referred to earlier as well. As the home energy score concept takes ground, there would be greater demand for HES because they enjoy synergies with each other.
Thanks, Gaurav. Next, we've mentioned the home energy score, which is kind of in partnership with this home energy saver in our mind as far as, especially the opportunity to market the product. Though this score is still in the process of rolling out, it's currently in a pilot product, and it is going to roll into a full service product in either the fall of 2011 or possibly the winter. So it was developed recently in conjunction with the Department of Energy to create this nationalized standard. They're rolling that through the pilot. And going forward, we see the potential for, as we said, mainly companies like the online real estate market to kind of latch onto this as a means to advertise the energy efficiency of homes. And then further down the road, there is even the possibility that we could reach a system where there's an interest in integrating this into things like housing inspections to get a mandatory home energy assessment. And if that were to occur, you're going to see a huge uptick in interest for the home energy saver product. And this kind of visualizes, if you can see on the right there, the home energy score as it currently is kind of visualized on the site through the DOE. You see kind of what your score is for a home, what the potential to move your score is, and how much that would cost you. And this kind of just very simply demonstrates the interplay between the home energy saver product and the information that that kernel feeds to the energy score. The use by some of the market players that we think could be partners with home energy saver. The realtors could utilize both the score and the home energy saver product. However, still the energy auditors, the utilities, home area networks, and appliances are going to rely on the information, the feedback from the data coming from the home energy saver product, which is kind of at its core the heart of everything. And the homeowner, the total end customer, is interested in all of these, works with the realtor, the energy auditors, the utilities, all of these. And so he's kind of the back end of all of that.
So to close, because we have a commercial product available, we were able to assess and make recommendations about both pricing and management of the API. And as was discussed earlier, you have a pricing challenge here because you have home energy auditors that might be small startup companies of 2 to 3 people. You have mid-sized companies that might be using this, such as Zillow, for real estate information. And you also have utilities that might use this, for example, to put a widget on their web page to help engage customers as they learn about their energy usage and pay their electricity bill. So the question is how do you price that and drive commercial adoption while bringing a revenue stream back to the lab, part of which could be used to go back into further improvements and research in this area? And so one logical answer is, well, just segment the market and look for the most attractive people. But we think a pricing structure with variable cost license could actually accommodate all those different users, because one of the things that we found is that the value of this service to all those potential customers does correlate with the number of uses that we have. So for that reason, we're recommending a variable cost license structure. And that also helps because the startups are very, very early stage. Right now, these companies that are testing the license haven't yet been able to determine the value of HES yet, because many of them haven't even begun offering services to their customers. And so by lowering the cost of adoption to basically nothing on a per-use system, we think we're going to be able to attract much more people to adopt the system. However, with that becomes more administration. You have more users that may want an API key to test with it, to dabble with it. You have more complicated billing and invoicing arrangements. And so for that reason, we've recommended the structure here, which is home energy saver on the left in the lab with a third-party intermediary company that will be interacting and acting as a gateway to API users. Now, this structure already exists to some extent already, where there's a company that's managing the technical aspects of the API. However, our recommendation is to continue to develop a partnership with those companies for them to handle user management, billing, and other administrative matters. And some of those companies are actually already built also to do some marketing and perhaps some of the improvements in terms of output that some of the API users that don't have the resources to do that themselves, it could be done by this third-party intermediary. And so to close our presentation, we want to offer a glimpse into the future. This is a few years out, but what we're calling smart home ecosystem. So right now, if you can imagine, the quintessential user of this system might be an energy audit company. If you're a homeowner, you call up an energy audit company, and energy auditor, he or she arrive with a clipboard, take down information about your house, your heating, your windows, your lighting, make some recommendations for you as to what makes the most financial sense to save you money off your electricity bill. But we think a few years from now, homeowners are going to have much more information and be much more engaged about their energy usage. You might have something on your wall, such as Intel's system, or on your fridge, or even on your smartphone, that's going to be telling you and breaking down your energy usage in a much more granular information. I mean, right now, most of us know how much we use in our gas in our cars, but we don't have a sense of where our energy use comes from, how it breaks down, and what the best methods are to help reduce our energy bill and save our energy costs. But this system will start helping people to do that and to engage a lot more. And so there's two aspects to that. One is, altering your behavior. Do I turn the lights off more to save my energy bill? But the other aspect is, well, what lights should I use in the first place? When should I upgrade those? When should I do that versus my appliances or versus my heating system? And we think that HES in the years going forward, as companies built out what we call the smart home ecosystem, will have a very strong role to play in providing the informational backbone to this type of recommendation so that when users are engaged in their home, much more in their home energy usage, they'll have accurate and up-to-date information about how to make the best choices regarding their home energy. And so with that, we'd just like to put up our summary slide and open it up for questions. Thank you.
I always hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if I've got $1 million to invest in your company, what am I investing in? One, I don't understand the product. If it's out there, I don't exactly know what it is that already exists with LB&L. The second thing is I haven't seen anything that shows any kind of value proposition, meaning what's the return? If a person invests in a business like this, where does that return money come from? What is that? I saw $715 million as a market size. I don't know if that's the entire market for this business, but it to me has not been vetted to the point where if we were taking clean tech to market, which is fundamentally what this conference is about, what is it the product that I'm investing in? So help me with that a little bit.
Okay, so part of what you're investing in, and we think the value proposition which differentiates HES, is the HES brand and the quality of research. Now, for one is that you have continuously up-to-date information and research which could be used. Now, that in and of itself, in terms of like IP or in terms of market potential, only goes so far. So, for example, like if you're a company that's using this software or anyone else's software to make a recommendation about upgrading your lighting, for example, whether or not the report says you could save $132 or $128, once you get to that level of granularity, it's about many other things such as engagement. But what we think is that the LBL brand is very strong because you could start using that to, basically you could leverage that as if you're a home energy auditor and you are typing in and engaging the customer in their home to make upgrade recommendations. And when that output comes out, you can say, look, this is powered by unbiased research that's coming from a federal laboratory. And so we think that there's a very strong value proposition with regard to that. Now, to answer part of your other question about, if I'm investing $1 million and where is this vetted, I don't think that within this class that there's all these ones are going to become venture-funded, venture-backed industries. And so in our written report, what we've explored is some of the intermediary companies like this, which is not going to be necessarily receiving $1 million from any external funding in order to make this a viable information distribution mechanism, or even potentially a nonprofit institution, which could have some synergies with what Mark discussed in terms of home energy score. And so just to kind of frame, what we were looking at is that we were not just looking at, what is a venture-funded business model for this that's going to return 10x to an investor. What we're looking at and what the lab's mission in part in this is to drive the greatest adoption of it, not necessarily profit maximization. And so venture-funded or separately externally financed businesses, although that's one path, that's not the only path, and that's not the one that we ultimately focused on.
Just for those who arrived late, this is not a business plan competition. We're looking at market assessment of things before a business plan competition, and looking more at some opportunities that people can pursue later.
So I have a question, actually two questions. The first one is about the product, if you can quickly enlighten me. A lot of the, well, for example, the state of California and the California utilities are very engaged in integrated demand-side management, and they're moving towards a zero-net energy home in the year 2020. To what degree, you showed energy auditing in the sense of energy efficiency opportunities. To what degree does this tool also allow looking at other opportunities such as on-site generation and other aspects of IDSM?
I'm actually very familiar with that sector of kind of some of the companies like PG&E. I worked in that sector kind of with some of the people from Z&E this summer. I think what makes LB&L's product in particular so valuable is the accuracy and the up-to-date nature of the research. So as things come into the market and are viable for use in the home, those technologies are integrated into the software, the algorithms that update and calculate kind of what is saving you energy. And so this is the first product that's going to get all of that information and integrate that into the system because of kind of the background and the research that's done with DOE to ensure that things are correct. And I think that's one of the value propositions of this product is that the up-to-date nature of the new kind of smart appliances, things that come online, are integrated into the understanding of what the energy efficiency of a home is. And it's one of the reasons we think that differentiate the product that LB&L has from, for example, Microsoft Home's version, which used an earlier iteration of the software from LB&L's Home Energy Saver, and that they do not have this kind of updated, constantly researched information on the newest of those technologies.
Thank you. So my second question is about paths to market. And I think you guys did a great job of looking at the product and the competition. The one thing that I didn't see on your view graphs was an assessment of the actual LBNL infrastructure as a national laboratory. And it's a wonderful organization, a wonderful institution, but in the tech transfer function, there are probably some barriers to speed and to other things. And I'm just curious, did that come up at all? Maybe it's taboo to talk about here, but I think it's very important because the national labs are getting a lot of pressure from Steve Chu on down to make things happen in the market. I'm wondering, what does that look like in terms of being an opportunity versus a challenge for a product like this?
I can take part of that. I mean, I think engaging us is one of the first steps in, helping speed up that process. I mean, we discussed and looked at a number of facets beyond just what we put in this 20-minute presentation, of which we'll be giving back to the lab. And so having that sort of commercial feedback from us in terms of even just really sitting down with every single licensee and sitting down and talking and interviewing companies, all this space and trying to just see where is this going to go out, I think it will hopefully help drive, further and quicker adoption of that. And that's why I think when they posed the questions to us when we first sat down, it was in that vein. And also, I think it goes back to, on this previous slide, one of the things that we were trying to do is how do we set this up so that the lab can focus on what its core strength is, which is the research, which is unbiased research, which is constantly up-to-date information, which then can be used, to where the users can call that. And so what we didn't discuss in our presentation, but one of the things we asked about fundamentally when the lab gave us this project was, well, they have it set up as an API, but does that even make sense? Is that the best way to go? And one of the answers, I think, from our research is yes, that makes a lot of sense because these users can start pulling on this information, but the lab can constantly update their information, and the users are going to get that, instantaneously. And so it's a way for, if you have a number of users and licensees that are using this and find value in it, once you have new up-to-date research about recommendations that can further refine it, you can get those out as soon as you put it into the database. And so you have the lab focusing on what the lab does best. You have an intermediary company there which is going to extract some value and some revenue from the whole thing. However, this whole system will increase the pie, hopefully bigger than, having that intermediary otherwise would. Sure.
I have a question relative to your competitor analysis. It seems to me that one of the weaknesses of this tool might be that it's heavily dependent on user input and a major time investment from users to input data. Some of your competitors have invested heavily on sophisticated back-end data analytics that basically, vacuum up information like meter data, appliances, et cetera, and minimize the user interface by using data analytics. And I wonder where you see the positioning of this product relative to the companies that have invested more in the back-end data analytics.
Sure. So if you check out the Home Energy Saver right now, it's a tool where you can go online and put in information about your own home. What we've been focusing on is a pro version that would allow companies to access this data automatically. And whether they have the data inputted manually or through some of that data cleaning, data scrubbing techniques that you just described, that's kind of up to them. So I think there is room for what you just described, that companies won't just have to sit there and manually enter information, but they will have their sources of information about houses. For instance, Zillow already has a lot of information about how big a house is, where it is, how many, when it was built and things like that, and they can automatically feed that in through the API to the Home Energy Saver and get those assessments. So absolutely your own point that the value is not in having to manually enter that information, but incorporating it with other database sources. Tap the button.
Maybe that works. There we go. So much of the presentation began with a profit motive on the behalf of the lab. I'm curious if you remove that from your analysis, whether the result would be qualitatively different. Just to expand make that clear, we have many technologies that have come out of the lab or the university, BSD Unix, relational databases, TCP/IP, where the key was putting it out there open source into the world in order to enable, and in those cases did enable multi-billion-dollar industries, as opposed to the modest revenues on the original technology. Would that change dramatically the picture you see?
I think that might change some of the levels, but in terms of where the tool would be used, I think those might be basically similar. You know, this is going to be integrated into energy assessment in the home, either through the home area network that Len was describing, or through regulation requiring audits anytime there's a home sale, or through utilities. So I think fundamentally it would be used in similar purposes. We didn't really examine the scenario you just described, but do you want to add?
Yeah, I just kind of want to add one kind of interesting facet of that is also that in regard to something like the home energy score, which we brought up, since this is kind of intended to be kind of a national rollout for a standardized energy score, going forward, if that's actually going to take place and that's going to be kind of this standard metric, there's going to have to be disclosure about what exactly goes into that metric. And so it may not even be kind of on the part of LBNL solely through the Home Energy Saver product to determine kind of what is the DOE's home energy score. And so just the research that goes into this, the fact that they're the ones developing a lot of this stuff, guides how we determine energy efficiency going forward. And so I think a lot of those same companies that could look to partnering with Home Energy Saver may also just rely on the research of the product regardless of whether or not they are buying in as licensees.
One last question.
Thank you. Is there any thought or work going toward, besides assessing the home, interfacing for a big issue of load shedding during peak hours, anything, and ongoing feedback where it actually becomes a integral part of energy management system in the home?
So I think what you're describing is much more behavioral based. So turning off the light, or not running appliances in the middle of the day when demand is highest. And the Home Energy Saver, I think, is focused a little bit more on more permanent or capital expenditures to upgrade efficiency in the home. So I don't know if it's directly addressing that peak load issues that you brought up.
Okay, I just have a follow-on question. I understand that Recurve, which you showed at the beginning, is one of the 2 software programs that's approved for the California Energy Upgrade. Mm-hmm. Are you the other one, or are you working on that? Because that's a great basis, because it'll roll nationally after it's a few years in California.
I don't believe they're not the other kind of approved software for that. However, I think there was, at least in earlier iterations, a lot of discussion about which softwares would be allowed for that. And I think kind of going forward, you see that kind of that as a program informs a lot of the other programs that are going around the nation. And the way that they determine which software will be used going forward, I think, is also in some senses a question of whether or not the software used and the background of that is unbiased and profit-driven. And it's part of the reason I think we believe that there is such a value proposition to what LBNL does, as opposed to companies like Recurve that are out there in the profit-driven space, in determining is this really energy efficiency as we holistically want to think about it.
Thank you.